Awesome.
All right, let's get started. So welcome everyone. Wonderful to see you all today. My name is Rochelle from Your Happy Place. We help people to find their happy place through our online program, the Positive Mindset Challenge. We're here today with the beautiful Alana. To introduce yourself.
As a multitasking,
Yes,
true.
as a multitasking, yeah.
So I'm Alana. I'm the co-founder of Your Success Team. A totally different way to think about how you grow your business, learning to make it as unique as you are, and obviously mindset's a massive part of that. So hence why I'm here to talk all things mindset.
Wonderful, and we're super excited today because we have a guest with us here today, Freddie Bennett. Welcome, Freddie. It's so neat to have you here today. So Freddie is a pretty amazing fellow. You'll hear a lot more about his story in the coming times, but Freddie's worked with the likes of Microsoft and Virgin Atlantic and Coca-Cola and Amazon, and he has run across the Sahara Desert, which is amazing. He has completed an Ironman and an ultra marathon. He is a Guinness World Record holder. He is a best-selling author, and is a top 25 global podcaster. So super excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure
Very
to be
excited
here.
to talk to you. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So we're obviously, our theme for these talks is mindset, and Freddie's just a wonderful example of mindset of someone that's overcome some quite huge adversities to get to where he is today. So should we just kick off by telling us a little bit about your background and where you've come from, Freddie?
Perfect. Thank you, and thank you for having me on the show. It's great to meet you all, and yes, I think the easiest way to say it would be that life used to look a lot differently for me. Obviously, you probably would have guessed that I'm not New Zealand born and bred. I'm from the UK originally, but for me, I used to be part of the corporate lifestyle. I had a relatively difficult upbringing. It was a house full of parents that drank and abuse going on and everything else. I lived in this quite chaotic environment, and for me, I had this dream of going into the corporate world, because for me it was stability. It was things like a paycheck, it was things like structure and routine and everything else. And I was the first person in my family to finish school, to go to university, to get what they used to call a proper job. And I started my career with the global consulting firm Accenture, and I walked into the shiny offices of London, and I was very impressed because there was free coffee and there were all these things, and I was in this environment when everyone had gone to the right school, everyone knew how to network, everyone knew the right things to say, and I was this guy who was feeling like an imposter in this situation. So I thought, how do I fit in? And because I learned in my college and university days, everyone has a talent. Mine was drinking. I used to call myself Funtime Freddy. I was the party boy, the first one at the bar, the first person to get the shots in, the entertainer of the group. And I realised in the corporate world, I was like, you have networking. They give me free alcohol. They call it networking. They call it getting to know the boss. They call it entertaining clients. And I was in this situation where I thought people liked me. They liked what I had to say. So I carried on in my corporate role. I focused on marketing and consulting. As you say, I worked with these big global clients, and from the outside, it was very successful. I had the six-figure salary. I had the Porsche. I had the holidays to the Maldives and the granite worktops and everything else. But on the inside, and especially when I hit my 30s and I had a couple of young kids, things were starting to fall apart on the inside. I was getting more stressed, more anxious, more depressed, I was drinking more and more heavily. I was drinking on my own, but I felt like I had to maintain this facade. I felt like I had to be outwardly successful. I had to impress my boss, impress my clients, and I found myself in this negative spiral where I wanted to get off the roller coaster, but I thought I can't because we need the money, or we need the promotion, or we need the bigger house or the bigger car. And I remember saying to myself, look, I didn't think I was put on the earth to do these things, to be this guy who was in his 30s, just sat on the sofa, drinking every night, angry at the world. And then one day, as I say, I was looking at being a partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers at the time, and I was at my desk, as you do, a bit hungover, just sort of kind of giving it the whole tapping away on a spreadsheet, and but yeah, with your head in your hands, just thinking, wow, this is really a dream come true. And
But I'm successful.
Oh, but I'm successful.
Oh, but I'm successful.
Look at
I'm successful.
I've got the watch and the car and all these things, and I was making lots of money for my clients, and it was all great. But then the phone rang, and it was telling me my dad was in hospital, and I had that moment that we all hear about, but we don't think will happen to us, where I had a normal lunchtime, then I had to get in my car, drive 300 kilometers, and then by that evening I watched my dad die, and I was I was 30, 35 or 36 at the time, and the stereotypical story here is that you walk out of the hospital and the light shines upon you and you say, yes, this is the moment, I'm going to change my life. The real truth is I drank more, I partied harder, I worked harder, I lived a low budget Wolf of Wall Street lifestyle, shall we say. And I tried to change my behaviours and my habits and my mindset, and I did all of the things. I read the books by Goggins, I had the podcast by Robbins, I tried to feel the fear and do it anyway. I even practiced the subtle art of not giving lunchtime shows, so I'm not gonna So I tried to do all these things, but I found it really difficult to relate. It's difficult when the billionaire Tony Robbins says, don't worry about money. It's difficult when you read the story about the guy who climbed Mount Everest, but I was there, overweight, unfit, stressed, depressed.
With a mortgage, with kids, with a wife, all reliant on your income, right?
I couldn't relate to these things. And that was it. And I thought, and for me, that's when my mental health got very bad. And I had like the suicide hotline on speed dial. And that was when I thought, there's nothing worth living for. But I got through that moment. And then I did wake up one morning and I said, you know what, this is not the way it's supposed to be. This is not the way that I thought I could live my life. And
that's huge.
I wanted to live a life without regret, because I always thought, what regret on the day that my dad died, he didn't know he was going to die. And I always thought, when that moment when he thought, hang on, well, I'm not coming out of this one alive, what regrets did he have? So I thought, now it's time to see what I'm truly capable of. And that's when, to start it off as being this guy who couldn't run a kilometre, who was a heavy drinker, overweight, unfit, poor mindset, I thought, why not sign up for the world's toughest foot race? So I went from can't run a kilometre to 18 months later, 300 kilometres across the Sahara Desert in 6 days, which is where it all began. And then the world records and the book and the podcast all came from there. But it started off with that moment when I said to myself, what life am I prepared to tolerate? Am I prepared to step forward and choose that life less ordinary? And now I want to show that if I can be that guy who was where I was and then went on to do what I've done, then anyone can do whatever they set their mind to.
So that's quite that's like a leap transition, right? Sometimes change sneaks up on you, and you know, like, I don't know if you've read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and that's very much that incremental change. But this sounds like this is like an overnight. You chose to have that clean slate moment in life, but how would you sort of share how that practically unfolds? Because you've still got a mortgage, a wife, a kids, you've still got life here, but then you've got this unfolding realization that you would like this life to be different. So can you share perhaps a little bit like how that journey looked practically?
Definitely. And I think as part of this, it's important to say, because again, I've been there and I've listened to the person talking about the adventurers. I'd be like, yeah, great, adventure time, brilliant. You know, for me, it was about doing these adventurous things, because that's just the kind of, and it links back to the drinking and everything else, that all or nothing type that we talk about, the people that don't have an off switch. That was just my goal. But for me, running across the Sahara Desert, for someone else, that might be writing a book, that might be climbing a mountain, it might be starting an art class, it might be starting a business. Everyone's goals and challenges are different, so it doesn't have to be the big extreme exercise, because most people in their right minds wouldn't want to do what I've done, and I don't blame them at all.
He's just kind of like reading my mind, like running across the Sahara.
I was like, great, not the best holiday. Honestly, go to Fiji, it's much more fun. And there are no toilets in the Sahara as well, so that's a whole different story.
We'll leave that for another day.
Exactly.
Lots of sand.
But it does get everywhere. But again, probably a different show. But I think for me, it's about perseverance. And I say with so many things in my life, I've proudly failed 1,000 times. I've been the person who tried to join the gym and then gave up. I tried to join the book and it gave up. I tried to start the business and it failed again and again and again. But I always told myself, you only need to get it right once. And that's the important thing. I've proudly failed 1,000 times at so many things. But when you get it right once, your life changes.
That's very cool.
But I like to focus on the tactical things because, again, it's so easy in this day and age with social media and Instagram just to fire motivational quotes at people. I could just sit here and say, look, just face your fears, just dream big and all those. But it doesn't really help people. It doesn't help individuals. It doesn't help businesses. So what I like to do is firstly say, get really clear on what your mission is and what your purpose is. As I say, it might be the new business venture. It might be to take your business to the next level. It might be to learn a new skill or a new hobby, whatever it is, and then work backwards from there and break it down into very small steps, because it is about consistency. And like taking the Sahara Desert example, running across the desert was, well, I wouldn't say it was the fun part, but I could only do that because I spent 18 months
training.
Literally starting off with a kilometre round the block and then a 10k and then a half marathon and doing all these things. And it is that consistency that takes it closer. It's something that I call, and there's a book called Straight Line Leadership, which is definitely worth reading. And Straight Line Leadership says there's 3 different types of people. We get circle thinkers, zigzag thinkers, and straight line thinkers. Circle thinkers are the people that always just go around in circles, like a dog chasing their tail. And they can just sit there saying, yeah, I'm gonna do that one day. I'm gonna start the business. I'm gonna write the book. I'm gonna start. When I moved here, to this wonderful country, so many people back in England were like, "Oh, I'm gonna do that one day. Oh, I'd love to do that." And I thought, well, why don't you? So you get the circle people. The zigzag people are the people that get all the energy, and you say, "Yes, I'm gonna start the hobby. I'm gonna start the business," and they just fire off. But then they hit a roadblock, and they hit a challenge, they stop, and then they get a bit down and they lose energy until then the next big thing fires, and then they fire off in that direction till something, and then they fire off, but then straight line people, they think about, where do I want to get to with my mission and my purpose? Where am I now? What's the straight line between here and there? And because
what do I need to do?
Exactly. And it's not about the chasing of perfection. So many of us, we say, I can't start a business till I've got the website right, and then I need the business cards, and then the logo, and then everything that I do in my business now. It's helping people to fulfill their mission in the easiest possible way. You don't need Facebook ads, you don't need the perfect website. It's about saying, what can I do to get from A to B? Because there's never a perfect time, but always say, we're never going to be perfectly ready. We're never going to have everything ready. So we have to make it the perfect time. I was never going to be ready to write a book. I was never going to be ready to be a Guinness World Record holder with all these different things. But I just took that first step and I started, and then you take another step and another step, and that's how you build that consistency and that straight line leadership to achieve your goals.
Brilliant. One small step at a time, and just keep stepping. Don't stop stepping, just keep going.
Definitely.
Awesome.
I think that consistency is really important. One thing that you just said before that I'd be really interested to hear more about was around proudly failing. And I think that that's something it's really easy to see in hindsight, right? Like, you're like, oh, well, I failed at that, and then that put me on this path, and so now I'm here, and so clearly it was awesome and the right thing. But in the moment, it still stings, you feel it. So can you share about how, like, was it proudly failing at the time, or is it proudly failing in hindsight? Maybe just share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, that concept of failure. And again, it's something that it's very easy to see. When Jeff Bezos talks about failing, it's like, well, okay, Jeff, but you've still got your massive boat and your private jet and everything, so it's not too bad for you. But look, I found a lot of success in my life when I accepted my past and my failures. And and I talk about I talk about my old life. I've had I've had drug dealers hold a loaded gun to my head. I had a great moment to talk about professional failures. I locked myself out of my hotel room naked at a work conference. So try negotiating the lobby of your work conference at 3:00 in the morning after you've had a few and you're naked and all these things.
I'm just letting a couple more people in. What a moment
Brilliant.
to enter, right? Like that moment when you lock yourself out of your hotel room naked.
So anyway, thank you all for joining, and tune in next week for the end of that story. For so long I tried to hide those bits of my part. I think with our professional lives as well, we feel like we have to put on a mask at work.
Yes.
We can't fail at work. We when someone says how was it, and you're kind of saying it's great, when you know it was a disaster. All the best things in my life have happened when I've owned up to those failures. And yes, it's painful. It is embarrassing at times, especially if you're naked outside your hotel room. But professionally, I've had...
Not another way to spin that, is there?
No, exactly. You just got to own that. I've had things with clients that have gone wrong. I ran a marketing session for a group of coaches Tuesday morning here, and it just went wrong. I got the message wrong, and then I thought, well, what do I do about that? So I did a Facebook Live to that group. I just said, look, guys, we're never going to get it 100% right, and what people don't talk about, it's about the missed shots that we don't take. It's any campaign that we run, anything we try and do, we sometimes hit it out of the park, but I believe it's from our failures that we learn more, and it's going to happen. It's whether we accept it or just we try and hide from it. But I think what I try and say now is that my mess is my message, and that might be I've got all kinds of message, professional, personal. My life's usually a disaster half the time.
Well, you're a human.
Exactly.
To be a human is to be messy.
Exactly. But I think to say, I'm still here, I'm still standing, we're still moving forward, we're still making things happen, because it is those moments of failure that I believe do define us. And if we can learn from them and keep on that straight line to where we want to go, that is where we'll reach the destination that we want to reach.
It's definitely taking that moment when you are in that failure of just sitting and going, okay, so this is okay. When you have that happen to you, you feel like everything's coming crashing down and there's no other way. But it's taking that moment to say, actually, it's okay, this has happened. What can I learn from it? How are we going to move forward? And let's take a moment to feel the failure and then just put it aside and move forward.
Definitely.
I'd be really interested because obviously what we're really keen to convey, to everyone that's sort of joining us or will watch us on replay afterwards is, as you hit that moment, say earlier this week with that marketing session, and I imagine you felt the like what behaviours, skills, strategies work for you to for your bounce back? What have you learnt that works for you so that you can go, ooh, okay, here's how I get back to.
It's a really interesting one, because it's so easy for us to be hard on ourselves, and I think for all of us, it's much easier and much more natural to focus on the things that we got wrong. We never lie in bed and think, God, that was a great success I had today. But we do lie in bed thinking about, I could have done that. And if I had that conversation again, then I would have said this and not that and everything else.
So hard on ourselves, aren't we, as a human?
We are. And I know it's a cliche, but it's if you were having that conversation with a friend or a colleague and they were saying that thing, then you'd be supporting them and comforting them and saying, but you're great at this and you're great at that. So again, without just throwing motivational words at people, what I do on a tactical level is I try and write down things that I'm grateful for and also my successes. So I messed up a Zoom call, it happens. I'm here in a wonderful place. I've got my health. I'm helping thousands of people change their lives. There's so many things that we know to be grateful for.
So you're almost like counter-argumented in terms of, and is there something for you in the art of writing it down that's helpful rather than just having it as a running narrative at the time?
There is definitely, because for me, and this is one thing I've learned quite recently, it is about taking that time and slowing down, because I think a lot of us, either in the personal development world or they've got a business background, we're so just like go, and we and this is what I hate about social media. It's all hustle and work harder, and you've got David Goggins there shouting at you, and the guys from Navy SEALs who all want to be coaches these days apparently saying like, get hard and do this and do that, and I'm like, but I don't want most
of every hour and every second and nanosecond and
it's like, come on, David Goggins, just smile, mate. I just want to chill out and just do some journaling. Is that okay? And they're like, no, give me 20 push-ups. But what I found is that if you can,
it's harder, not smarter, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's definitely harder, not smarter.
It's
not keeping in tune with, what feels good to you and tuning into your intuition and going with what what feels right.
It is, and I think if there's time, there's one concept I talk about. It's the farmer versus the wizard, and I was a farmer for a very long time, and nothing against farmers, by the way. If there are love farmers, but traditionally, a farmer is they're toiling in the field all day long till their hands bleed. They're having to work harder and harder and harder, and then they go to bed tired every night. And then if they wait a few months, hopefully, if no natural disasters happen, then they'll see the fruits of their labour. Wizards,
it's a tough industry.
It is,
sure.
But wizards can create something from nothing. I'm like the Harry Potter that really let himself go. But wizards can cast the spells that that can create something from nothing. They know that they can just wave a magic wand and things can happen in their lives. So it's about working. Wizards can work smarter and not harder.
Yes.
But they have to take the time to write the book of spells, to read the spells, to learn the spells, and that's what I learned. If you can slow down and just take that moment, and you can call it deep work, you can call it journaling, you can call it reflection, but just actually shutting out the kids, turning off the phone, not having this world that we all seem to have where we say, I'm going to do this now, but then the email pings, and then the phone rings, and you say, I've got a Zoom in 25 minutes, so I'll just make a coffee, and then the day's gone. That's and you're like, what have I achieved? And then and so many of us, and this is something that I'm on a mission to help with, so many of us go to bed every night and we feel like we haven't done enough. And then we wake up the next morning and we feel like we haven't slept enough. And then we go on that pattern again.
We repeat the cycle.
I haven't done enough.
Absolutely.
Oh, I haven't slept enough. Oh, but I haven't done enough. And so what can we do to slow things down, to focus on what matters exactly, and really see what tasks can keep us on that straight line to fulfill our mission and our purpose, and to do what we're all put here to do.
Amazing. And writing has so much to do with that, because how you started on that is writing down, the things that you have done well, or that you are good at, or your wins, and in those moments of where we're beating ourselves up about things, pulling out that list that you wrote a week ago or the day before, whatever, when you're in a better mind frame is huge. And reading this, that's right, because in that when you're in that mindset of beating yourself up about a failure, you can't think of, it's really hard to think of the good things you've done, but having that list there that you can then pull out is amazing.
I see that we've got a couple of questions, so we'll jump to this in a second, but I'm really curious because obviously the corporate world is very much farming based in terms of like post-industrial, tailorist, maximizing efficiency, and you were in that and you were steeped in it from like for quite a number of years. What were some of the biggest things you had to unlearn to be in this new space where you've got this, because creating that space is this an easy thing to say, but there's all this societal programming, the stuff we've been habits, Protestant work ethic kind of message, work hard, all of that sort of messaging. So have you got anything you can share on how you unlearned?
That's a great question.
Just to throw you on the spot.
Yeah, just to put me on the spot there. I mean, yes, I was in
time too, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, I was in that world for 15 years. Like I say, I had the Coca-Colas and the Virgin Atlantics, everything else, and I had to perform and to do your job and get the promotion and make the money and everything else. I think the first one for me was actually slowing down, as we've said, because in the corporate world there's always that kind of, I need to impress someone, I need to do a bit you have your job and then there's the extra stuff and then there's the promotion and all
the
these
expectations that you work longer hours and you work faster and harder, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think a lot of it actually was being the person that I knew I wanted to be and being honest as part of that, because in the corporate world when the boss says, is everything okay, and you're kind of like, yeah, promise, it's fine, and you're kind of just
don't make eye contact,
dying inside and everything else. So I think that honesty with myself and actually saying, you know what, this can be fun, and I think that's a story that I used to tell myself, and everyone has to do this. I'd be commuting on the train to grey England, and I'd probably be hungover at the time, so you got the thing where like your face is pressed against the cold glass, and I was just like, really? Is this how it's supposed to be?
Is this it?
But then I told myself it was. I was like, this is what normal people do. They do a job they hate, they do the commuting because quite rightly we want to support
living
our families.
The dream, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Living that dream, exactly.
Trapped in success.
But then, and then I started to write my own rules to say, but what if I only did things that I enjoyed? And what if I only worked with people that I love to work with?
Yes.
Saying no is actually a big one as well, because in the corporate world, you'd never dare say no. Can you do this? Yes, I can.
Yes.
Can you make it happen? Of course I will.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in this world, saying no, especially if someone's saying, like, I've had people offer me tens of thousands of dollars to say, can we do this? And then it's all very well to say no, and then you're like, I think
I'm just gonna ignore my mortgage just for a second.
You're holding on to the check. You're like, no, and then but I think saying no and saying how can I actually stay true to my values and to what I really truly believe in, that can be a real challenge. But if you can do that, and if you can stay true to yourself and your values, and I've found in my own business, anything that I've done because of money or guilt has never usually worked out. Anything that I've done that stayed true to my purpose, my passion, my values, and that I found fun, like this, for example, obviously, is it usually works out. It maybe not even the way
amazing.
It does. It feels amazing, and even if it doesn't work out the way you planned it to. That's part of the magic. That's when the magic spells start happening.
That's right. And you've changed and you've learned and you've grown so much from that experience. Just a whole different...
Exactly.
I love it.
Brilliant.
Let's see, because it looks like we've got a few questions in here. So you're just going to have to awkwardly see me, everyone here.
Oh, there's lots going on.
Hi, everyone. Oh, so Dan would love to find out what was your Guinness World Record for.
This is brilliant. Love this. It's very fun.
Amazing, and it's an interesting one, especially being here in Taronga in New Zealand, which is a big maritime town. It's a big fishing town. So I am officially the world's fastest fisherman.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone usually says that. So, so what that means is
how? Tell me more.
So what this means is
Tell us more about that.
So I've run the fastest marathon dressed as a fisherman, and
right, I love it.
Yeah.
because when I came
gear.
in the full gear, so proper like deadliest catch kind of setup with the gum boots, carrying a 3 kilo fishing box,
hood,
hood, waterproof,
yellow,
everything.
rainbow,
yellow or orange.
It was yellow, so I looked like a cross between a serial killer and the world's worst male stripper. So one of those two things. But that's a funny
running
thing.
A marathon wearing all that. I mean, running a marathon.
And like that's a marathon. That's not a 10K.
It's a marathon.
Like,
and
that was
wearing all that. It's phenomenal.
And it was crazy.
Phenomenal.
And when I came back from running across the desert, my kids, I was doing the whole like, son, are you proud of me?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, not really. And they were like, Daddy, I want you to break a world record now. And because they loved fish and sharks and everything, we did this thing. And yeah, there's so many metaphors in there for life that maybe I could talk about another time. But I think you worry about being made to look a fool of. We talk about failure and embarrassment. Standing on a start line of a race dressed like that, with 20,000 people pointing at you and laughing and telling you you're going to fail is a metaphor for life. But,
big motivating factor.
But 4 hours and 37 minutes later, they were calling me a Guinness World Record holder.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
anyone can do
what
that.
I'm more intrigued by,
because,
Guinness is awesome, or Guinness World Record is awesome. Sorry, Guinness is awesome. It says the pregnant one. I didn't mean that. I'm not that Irish. Proud dad moment. Were your kids proud after that?
They were. It was a funny moment because again, just quickly, it was a horrible race. Like running a marathon like that wasn't fun, and I thought I was going to fail. And I saw the finish line, and I had that thing. If you've ever feel like you fainted before, and you get the feeling in your ears and everything, your vision goes blurry, and you feel like you're going to be sick. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to faint just before the finish line, and I crumbled, and I sort of got lower and lower, and just as I was about to collapse, I felt this little thing in my hand, and my boy had jumped over the barrier, and they grabbed my hand, and they were like, "Come on, Daddy, don't fail now!" And they basically dragged me across the finish line.
Amazing, you're making me well up. That's very special.
If you go, I'll go.
Okay, no tears, not today.
So my kids were proud then. So now they can say that their dad's in the Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah,
that is
I'm
so
sure that's every
cool.
kid would want that for their dads.
Yeah.
My kids are so focused on it, they just love the Guinness Book of Records.
I'm gonna go home and tell my other half he's run a couple of marathons. I'm gonna be like, so dressing
up
up like
game.
a fisherman.
Up your game.
That is very cool. All right, so we've got another question here. Have you got any strategies or exercises for changing your mindset that you'd like to share?
Yes, that's a great question. So
it is a great question.
One thing I do with mindset is I try and keep things really, really simple, because I have those moments on so many different days. I still struggle with my mental health sometimes. I still have down days. I still have dark days. For switching my mindset, I always look at quick wins. And when I'm struggling, I always say, what can I just hold on to? Just is it the traffic light being green? Is it dropping my toast and it's the right side up? It's literally, if it has to be that small, it has to be that small. I remember this too will pass. This too will pass even. And I think life can change real quickly, real fast. Let's say 1,000 days ago, I was in a seedy hotel room in a horrible part of England, hungover, supposed to be at work, wasn't at work. My life was an absolute mess. 1,000 days isn't a long time. I'm here in New Zealand with the achievements and the business and everything else. So it is remembering, it is about that patient outlook. It is about looking for the quick wins. And I think it is remembering nothing lasts forever. The good times or the bad times. And there is always, I said there is always a way to make things happen. And just to remember that.
That's and like you said earlier too, with your journaling, is when you're in those moments and you want to flip your mindset, is sitting down with a piece of paper or a journal and just writing down some good things. What is going right in my life right now? Like what are the things I'm grateful for? What are the things I'm grateful for that money can't buy? And those sorts of bits and pieces to just help switch that mindset into a positive mindset and think, okay, well, where do I want to go in my straight line? Where am I aiming for? What's just one small step I can make towards my goal? One small thing. And as you do that, you move yourself out of that negative space and more into a positive space. So
definitely.
Brilliant.
So true. And then we've got another question here. Some books that you would recommend reading that have had a good impact on your life. So obviously the Straight Line Leadership.
Yep, Straight Line Leadership is a big one. I was going to say, Starting at Zero by Freddie Bennett is available on Amazon. I highly recommend that book. It's on sale at the moment. It should be on every bookshelf. See, I did write
We'll send a link out when we see now.
It's inspiring though, reading reading books from people that have had such a journey as you've had.
Definitely.
So inspiring, and there's so many different things you can take out of your book to help you along your path as well. It's just amazing.
Definitely. And things like Tony Robbins, Waking the Giant Within, it's kind of like one of the key ones. But for me, that was the whole thing around change your story, change your life. And for so long, I told myself, I'm not good at exercise, I'm not a good person, I'm not good at business. And I told myself this story, but with books like Awaken the Giant Within, that's what I told myself, I can change my story and I can change my life. So that was a key one, definitely.
Awesome. Not holding on to those past beliefs to you had those experiences and we so much learn from those experiences, but if you hold on to them and hold on to that mindset, you're not going to move forward. So it's very much thinking, okay, I draw a line in the sand and what can I do going forward? How can I change things going forward?
We've got a question here around goal setting and keeping track of your goals on a weekly or daily basis. Any suggestions or ways that you make that work for you, Freddie?
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting one actually, because I think that tracking of goals is so important because we've all kind of been there in the shower and like, I'm going to do that one day, and then you get out the shower, out that little 5-minute peace and quiet that you get, and then life just hits you again and then the goal just disappears. So I think writing down the goal as a smart objective, so smart being specific, measurable, aligned, realistic, time-based. Yep, there we go. Got there in the end. And so actually, setting those mini goals, I talk about rocks, stones, and pebbles, for example. So you have your massive rock goal, then you break it down into smaller stone goals, and then the tiny pebble goals. If you do the pebbles, you'll get to the stones, and you'll break the rocks. But one thing as well, I think with the tracking of goals, I can use exercise as an example, but for business as well, you don't need all the gadgets. You get the people that are like, well, I can't do the run until I've done the watch and done the tracking and done the weighing and done the time. Even if it's just write it down on a piece of paper, even if it's with fitness, even if it's just taking a photo of your before or after, if it's your business, just tracking how many phone calls you made in one day, how many posts you made in one day. that's a key thing. And the other final thing with goals, I do something called create, don't consume. And this, it can be for social media, it can be for business. In the world that we have at the moment, it's so easy to hide away and say, I'm just going to read a few more books. I'm just going to just scroll through YouTube for a few more motivational videos. I'm just going to do a few other things. If we do the 80-20 rule, 80% creation, 20% consumption, whatever you're doing, that will get you a lot closer to your goals. Consuming is important. Obviously, consuming this content is highly important and unmissable.
We are in your 20%
yes,
people.
Definitely. The 1% to the 20%. But it's about consuming the right content. But so many of us stop hiding away and then just say, I'm not ready to make it happen. Just get out there, start creating either conversations, start creating plans to serve people, start creating the real actions to get you towards your goals. And that's going to start you on that journey.
Pick up that phone and ask for help from someone if you don't know what to do.
Absolutely. Asking for help is a key one.
Yeah, absolutely. Ask people that have been there before, or another business owner, or some, anyone that has done.
That's a really lovely practical step, and I feel like I just might have missed a little last question called. Oh no, that was just lots of thank yous. They were very well received practical tips.
Thank you.
I mean, you've just given us so many little gold nuggets. Amazing. But a few of the things that you said along the way is being who you want to be, not getting caught up in the whole, who you think you should be, or other people think you should be, or what you think the dream life is. Going more, being in touch with, sitting down and thinking about, what do I really want to do? If I was going to kick the bucket tomorrow, what would I have wanted to achieve? What's in the moment? Slowing down and taking the time to think about those things, and slowing down generally in life. Smarter, not harder. Journaling, writing down your wins, the positive things you mentioned as well, and thinking about the best next steps for you. Have you got any more takeaways to add to that? Any last thoughts?
Wow, blimey, it's I can't that guy that you talked about. So he knew what he was talking about. I think the final thing that I always say, it's one of my key sayings. If you want the things you never had before, you need to do the things you've never done before, which I think is something I remember. It's easy to think about that in a material sense, but I think about it in terms of, if you want the happiness, the confidence, the joy, the fulfillment, that mental cohesion that we all want, then maybe you need to do something different and step outside of your comfort zone, or at least try to create more, try to serve more, try to help more. I think if we can do those things that we've never done before, we could all get to those places that we've never been before. And if we could all do that, then we could all make the world a better place, and we could all be all kinds of successful.
Amazing. Awesome. Help some people to do the same along the way.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Oh, and look, thanks Claire for sharing. I will pop that link out as well with the notes to Freddie's book too. But she should share that in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us, Freddie. This has been very inspirational.
Really great. Very inspirational.
Inspirational for me as well. It's wonderful to speak to you all and to meet everyone on the Zoom as well. So hopefully we can speak more in the future.
Yeah,
for sure.
And thanks everyone who's taken the time to join us live. We hope this was well purposed lunch break for you all, and we will see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.